The year 2026 arrived with a scientific bombshell. After years of anticipation, the research community finally announced what they called the definitive epigenetic clock, the undisputed gold standard for biological age testing. It was a moment that promised to reshape our understanding of aging, offering a precise measure of our internal biological timeline. The news spread like wildfire through scientific circles, promising a new era in personalized medicine and longevity research. Everyone had an opinion, but the general consensus pointed to a monumental leap forward. However, not everyone shared the enthusiasm. Dr. Evelyn Reed, a prominent figure in the field, didn't hesitate to voice her dissent regarding a competing model. In a widely broadcasted interview, her words cut through the buzz, sharp and clear. She dismissed our epigenetic clock, the one my team and I had poured years of our lives into, as fundamentally flawed and commercially driven. This wasn't just a critique. It was a public discrediting. She spoke with an air of absolute certainty, despite the widespread use of our clock and the promising preliminary data we had carefully gathered and published. Her pronouncement felt like a cold, deliberate strike aimed directly at the heart of our work. I watched her interview from my small, cluttered office, the screen casting a pale glow on my face. My hands were clasped tightly, knuckles white, but I didn't say a word. A subtle tension settled in my shoulders, a familiar weight I'd grown accustomed to carrying. It wasn't anger that consumed me, not exactly. It was more a quiet resolve mixed with a profound sense of injustice. We knew the rigor of our methods, the painstaking detail we'd put into every data point, every algorithm. To hear it all swept aside with such casual disdain by someone who had clearly not delved into the nuances of our research was a bitter pill to swallow. Yet I held my tongue, knowing that some battles are best fought not with words, but with undeniable evidence. Truth, like time, has a way of revealing itself. It always does, eventually. The next few days passed in a blur of lab work and quiet contemplation. The sting of Dr. Reed's words lingered, a low hum beneath the surface of my thoughts. Then, late one evening, as I was preparing to leave the lab, an alert pinged on my encrypted work phone. It was an anonymous message, unexpected and unusual. The sender was unknown, their identity carefully masked. The message itself contained a single, massive data file, also encrypted. My heart rate quickened. Data like this, delivered in such a clandestine manner, could only mean one thing. It was significant, very significant. I spent the next hour just staring at the file name, a jumble of alphanumeric characters that hinted at nothing and everything. The implications of receiving such a package, especially now after Dr. Reed's public declaration, were enormous. I knew, with a certainty that settled deep in my bones, that whatever was hidden within that encrypted file was about to change everything. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us where you're watching from in the comments. The anonymous message, with its encrypted data, was a stark reminder of the long road my team and I had traveled. Our journey to create an epigenetic clock began years earlier in a small, underfunded lab tucked away in the corner of the university campus. We started with a simple yet ambitious goal: to develop a reliable method for measuring biological age, something more accurate and nuanced than chronological years. The foundational principles were complex, involving the intricate dance of methylation patterns across the human genome. We hypothesized that these patterns held the key to unlocking an individual's true biological timeline, a timeline that could accelerate or decelerate based on lifestyle, genetics, and environment. The early days were a grind. Our lab was a tight squeeze, a collection of mismatched desks and humming machines. We worked long hours, fueled by cheap coffee and an unwavering belief in our project. Late-night data analysis sessions were the norm, the glow of monitors reflecting in tired eyes. We shared small triumphs and big frustrations, a tight-knit group united by a common scientific vision. There was a palpable energy in the room, a collaborative spirit that made the endless hours feel less like work and more like a shared adventure. We were a small fish in a very big pond, but we believed our approach was sound, our data robust. Our existence was simple, focused entirely on the scientific discovery we believed was within our grasp. It was a pure, unadulterated pursuit of knowledge, far removed from the political maneuvering that often plagued academic research. Even then, we started to notice subtle shifts, small instances that hinted at something more than just healthy scientific competition. Grant approvals for our team started experiencing unexplained delays, often just long enough to cause logistical headaches and slow our progress. Our early publications, despite strong peer reviews, would sometimes receive unusually critical feedback from anonymous reviewers, often focusing on minor methodological differences that felt disproportionate to the overall findings. These critiques seemed to echo sentiments we'd heard whispered in the hallways, subtle doubts about the novelty of our approach, almost as if someone was actively trying to undermine our credibility. These weren't outright attacks, but rather a slow, steady erosion of our standing. The tension escalated as Dr. Reed's influence grew. We'd find her consistently taking credit for tangential discoveries that, while related to her own work, had clearly originated from preliminary findings our team had shared in informal settings or early drafts. Her public statements would often downplay our innovations, presenting our unique insights as mere extensions of existing theories. Carefully omitting any mention of our novel contributions, it felt like a deliberate strategy to marginalize our work, to make it seem less groundbreaking than it truly was. Perhaps the most frustrating aspect was her exclusive networking. Key conferences, crucial collaborations, and influential committees always seemed to exclude our group. We'd hear about these opportunities through the grapevine, long after the invitations had been extended and accepted by others, primarily those within Dr. Reed's inner circle. These small but significant actions chipped away at our trust, fostering a quiet resentment that simmered beneath the surface. It wasn't just about scientific disagreement anymore. It felt personal, a systematic effort to sideline our team and our clock. Each slight, each overlooked achievement added another crack to the foundation of professional respect we once held. The anonymous data, now sitting encrypted on my phone, felt like a potential answer, a chance to finally challenge the narrative that had been so carefully constructed against us. The anonymous data, now decoded, was a revelation. It wasn't just a few data points. It was a comprehensive, independently collected dataset from a longitudinal study spanning multiple continents, meticulously tracking biological age markers across diverse populations for over a decade. This wasn't some minor anomaly. It was a systemic issue. The gold standard clock, Dr. Reed's celebrated achievement, consistently miscalculated biological age in specific crucial demographic groups. It showed a clear bias, overestimating age in certain ethnic minorities and underestimating it in specific age brackets, particularly in older adults. This flaw made it less universal and accurate than claimed, undermining its very premise as a definitive measure. This wasn't just about winning an argument. It was about scientific integrity and the real-world implications of inaccurate health assessments. I knew I couldn't tackle this alone. I reached out to Dr. Anya Sharma, a bioethicist I deeply respected, known for her unwavering commitment to ethical research practices, and Dr. Ben Carter, a data scientist whose reputation for rigorous statistical analysis was unmatched. I presented them with the anonymous data, explaining its origins and the potential implications. They saw the gravity of the situation immediately. This wasn't just a scientific debate, it was a matter of public health. Our collaboration was a whirlwind of intense analysis. We worked in secret, often late into the night, cross-referencing the anonymous dataset with publicly available genomic information and clinical outcomes. Dr. Sharma ensured our methodology was beyond reproach, meticulously documenting every step to prevent any accusations of bias or manipulation. Dr. Carter, with his incredible eye for detail, unearthed the subtle statistical patterns that confirmed the clock's inherent flaws. The evidence was irrefutable. Dr. Reed's clock, while impressive in some aspects, was not the universal measure it claimed to be. Its blind spots were significant, leading to potentially misleading health predictions for millions. We prepared our findings for publication, not as an attack, but as a correction. We highlighted the strengths of Dr. Reed's clock where they existed, but meticulously detailed the demographic biases and the mechanisms behind them. The anonymous data, once a secret, was now revealed as the cornerstone of our argument, demonstrating that our findings were not based on a small, cherry-picked sample, but on a robust, independently gathered body of evidence. The scientific community, initially skeptical, was forced to acknowledge the weight of our proof. The revelations sent ripples through the research world. Dr. Reed's gold standard clock was swiftly re-evaluated, its universal applicability questioned, and its use in clinical settings significantly curtailed. Dr. Reed faced significant professional consequences. Her funding was scrutinized, her speaking engagements cancelled, and her position as a leader in the field became untenable. But honestly, I didn't feel a sense of triumph. It was a somber victory. My team and I had sought truth, not revenge. We focused on the broader scientific benefit, the advancement of accurate biological age testing for everyone, regardless of their background. Our clock, once dismissed, now gained significant traction. Its robustness and inclusivity, validated by this rigorous independent analysis, made it a leading standard in the field. We continued our research, but with a renewed sense of purpose and a deeper commitment to open science. We collaborated more, shared our data freely, and ensured our future work was always subject to the highest ethical considerations. The experience had taught us a valuable lesson. The pursuit of knowledge must always be tempered with integrity. In the relentless pursuit of truth, integrity is the ultimate measure of time.